And welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're talking with Open University's David Dulio about this election that we're in the middle of at this stage of the game. So David, all the politicians you've seen, Donald Trump, who I think all of us, regardless of what you think of his politics, is a master communicator and showman, is changing politics and will forever. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't know, Carol. I tell you, it may be an outlier. I want to see what happens in 2022 and 2024 before we make that kind of judgment. I think that there are adaptations and shifts in politics, as you know, all the time. And this may be a curve in the road that there may be another one coming back where we get back to where, I hate to use the word, but more normal times.
Well, we are certainly seeing a lot of the candidates now in the final home stretch of all of this. Joe Biden has been here. The president was just here. And how much do you think we'll see them in the last few days of this?
I think we'll keep seeing representatives of the campaigns through probably the last weekend before Election Day. It may not be the candidates all the time, but they will, I think, continue to send their surrogates for sure. And it just speaks to the importance of Michigan in the electoral college map for each of the campaigns. They're investing heavily in spending here. They're investing heavily in terms of time that is very, very precious for the candidate, but as well as those surrogates that I mentioned. They're going to continue, I think, to place a high priority on Michigan.
How many people do you think still made their minds up on the presidential race, who they're going to vote for here in Michigan?
Yeah, I think that number is pretty small. And again, it speaks to the importance of our state, that there's probably a small slice of the electorate that hasn't made up their mind. Most folks have made up their mind about President Trump, whether they are for him or against him. And the number of folks that are in the middle, that are persuadable, I think is shrinking. Yet the campaigns continue to put resources here, trying to get every last vote that they can.
Do you think we will have results on November 3rd of that race and others here?
I think that the big question is the absentee ballots that will need to be counted, and whether or not the clerks across the state can count all of them by the end of the night. I think that in some places that will happen. In others, it's probably a question mark. And I think whether or not we have results depends on maybe how wide a margin we see here in Michigan. If it's really, really close, probably not. If one candidate pulls away, maybe we know who wins without all the absentees being counted. Excuse me. They will all be counted eventually, but we may know by the end of the night if one candidate has an insurmountable lead, possibly.
For races down the ballot here in the state and region, for example, Macomb County prosecutor, how much do you expect those sorts of races to be impacted by what happens at the top of the ticket and whom people vote for?
I think that they can be affected quite a bit, whether it's Macomb County prosecutor, Oakland County executive, Oakland County prosecutor, what have you, even down to sheriff races. We can sometimes see candidates pulled down the ballot, pulled in to office by the top of the ticket. We would call those presidential coattails. And I think that where we would see that effect maybe most is with folks that vote straight party ticket, where they get their ballot and they fill in that one circle at the top to say, I want to vote for all Republicans or I want to vote for all Democrats. Now, for those that don't, we often see ballot roll off. Some might call it ballot fall off, where the presidential race will certainly see the most votes cast. And then by the time voters get further down the ballot, they may stop voting because they don't have enough information, they feel, to choose one of those candidates for prosecutor, exec, could be a judge race. So we will certainly see fewer votes down there, but if a lot of folks go straight party, we might see a real impact.
If it turns out that the race is that close and there has to be counting of votes at the end, what do you expect will happen then? Is this something that could be protracted? Some people have said, go till Thanksgiving if they have to do it that way.
Well, I think nobody really knows, right? We're in sort of uncharted territory here, where Michigan, and it's on a couple of different fronts. And as you know, in 2018, Michigan adopted Proposition 3, which brought no excuse absentee balloting to Michigan, which was already going to increase the number of absentee ballots that we would have in this election cycle. But the pandemic on top of that really just ramps up the number of absentee ballots that are going to come in. And it's a question of resources and whether or not clerks around the state have the resources, really probably just people power, to count all those ballots on election night.
So Donald Trump won Michigan in 2016 by just over 10,000 votes. Do you anticipate real quickly here that it's going to be the same sort of margin regardless of who wins, or will it be more of a larger span between the two candidates?
I'll tell you, Carol, your guess is as good as mine. I think after 2016, we all learned to never say never.
When we look back on election 2020, 10 years from now, what's the one sentence we will say about this election?
Protracted. I'll give you one word, not even a sentence. I think you're going to see whoever loses is going to be in court.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time here. David, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks, Carol.
And thanks you at home for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next Sunday for more Michigan Matters.